welcome to the Cosmic Shambles Stay at Home Festival. Like everyone else, we're staying at home, but we really don't see why that should be boring. So we've got a full lineup of fun science things and ideas and stuff to keep you entertained for the next 40 minutes or so. This one is specifically a family show, but obviously everyone else is welcome to watch as well. We think everyone will get something out of it. One thing to mention at the start, the Stay at Home Festival there's lots of things going on. There's shows every day, there's all kinds of stuff. But one of the reasons we're doing it is to help out the artists and other performers who are not getting any work at the moment. So if you're a parent of a child who's watching, do please have a look at the Stay at Home Festival, the Cosmic Shambles Stay at Home Festival page. And there is a tip box there. If you can chuck in a little bit of a tip, if you'd like to, that will go straight to artists and performers to help them during the next month or so, or a few months, or however long it's going to last. So we have a fabulous group of people. We've got Michelle and Jonny and Jamie and Ginny, who it sounds like we planned that just so we could say their names in a great big long thread. They've all got things to show you, and we're going to get straight on with it. So I'm going to get started. My name's Helen Czerski. I'm a physicist, and I have a toy that I don't get to play with very often. So I was very happy to have this excuse to play with it. And it's this. So balloons, I've got a balloon here. Now we know what happens with balloons when you put them near a sharp thing. This is I'll hold it up to the camera. It's a wooden kebab skewer. And we know what happens when you bring balloons into contact with sharp things. They do that. However, I'm going to show you a way to do something you might not expect, and it shows you something about how balloons work. Now I've got another balloon here. So this is just a normal balloon and a kebab stick, and I'm going to take me a couple of seconds to do this. Well, what happened? Demos never work first time. I'm going to have another go. So actually, I'm going to try an orange one. See if the balloon colour makes a difference. So I'm going to stick the kebab skewer into the balloon, and the balloon doesn't pop, but the skewer keeps falling out the other side. So the point is, you can now see the skewer has gone right the way through the balloon and out the other side, and the balloon hasn't burst. It's good fun to try. It'll take you a few goes to get it right. You can see the balloon is getting a little bit smaller because there is a little bit of air escaping. So the question is, why didn't this pop? And if you have a look, I'm not going to tell you exactly where, because I think it's good to try yourself. But the reason the balloon pops is that when you stick a sharp thing into it, most of it is stretched. The skin of the balloon is stretched out. And so if you make a hole in it, you pull it apart, and that's why it pops. But there are two places in a balloon where there is the rubber isn't stretched, and so if you pierce it there, basically it doesn't fall apart, and you can stick the skewer right the way through the balloon, and you can take it out again. So I'm not going to tell you where though, because I think you ought to try it for yourselves. So that's my fun contribution, and I'm now surrounded by balloons and kitchen skewers. But we're going to carry on, and we have Ginny, who is all the way over in Singapore. And Ginny's got something to show you, which we all get to join in with, I think. So, Ginny, do you want to get started, and we'll have a chat afterwards?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. So I'm Ginny. I'm a science writer and presenter. If you haven't seen me on the Cosmic Shambles before, my background is in neuroscience and psychology. So I like to experiment on people, and a lot of the time I do that using illusions. So today I want to show you two illusions. The first one has been around for 50, 60 years. It's pretty well established. The second one is a bit of a new one, and I've actually twisted it a bit. So I'm really interested to find out whether it works on both the other guests on the panel and also you at home. So if you can let me know whether it works on you when we get to the second bit, that would be fantastic. So start at the beginning. I'm going to play you a sound, and I just want you to have a listen to this and see if you notice anything weird about it. Okay, so if you listen really carefully to this, you'll notice that it seems to sort of get higher and higher as you're listening, but it doesn't actually end up any higher in pitch than it started. So have another listen. So it sounds like it's going up all the time, but never actually getting anywhere. And it's quite similar to, you might have seen a picture of these impossible staircases, where it looks like each staircase is going up as you go around, but then they never actually get anywhere. You can just go around and around them forever. And this is called a Shepherd scale, after the guy who invented it. And I'm not a musician, so I'm going to do my best at trying to explain how this works, or how you make a shepherd's tone, and then I'm going to tell you why your brain interprets it the way it does. So to imagine how you make one, you need to imagine a really, really big piano. Now, if I was to stand at the far left side of a piano and play every note on it, I'd make a scale that went up, but then I'd get to the top and it would be higher than it would be at the bottom. So what they do for a shepherd tone is, you have, imagine a really big piano, and you've got 10 people playing it at the same time. Now, notes are grouped into octaves in music, and they go from A through to G. So you play A, B, and then there's some weird ones in there called flats and sharps. You get to G, and then you start again at A. So what we'd have to have with this big piano was 10 people all playing A at the same time, one octave apart. And then they're all playing a scale that gets higher, playing every note on the piano. And if you imagine following one person, they go all the way from the left end, playing every note to the right end. When they get to the end, they have to run round and start again. So you've got an infinite loop of people playing every note on the piano, going up and up and up. But we still don't quite have a Shepherd scale, because the other thing that Shepherd did, now he did this on a computer, not on an actual piano, because it would be really hard to do on a piano, but it's easier to imagine, is the very low notes and the very high notes are really quiet, but the notes in the middle are much louder. So you can hear that bit in the middle where you've got your, maybe the 6 people in the middle playing that scale going up and up and up, but you don't really hear the bit at the top and the bottom where they're running around and starting again. Now, the thing that's really important about our brain is our brain loves patterns. We're constantly looking for patterns everywhere, whether that's seeing faces on the moon or hearing patterns in music. So what our brain does is it focuses on that really nice pattern in the middle where it's going up, where you can hear it really well, and it just sort of ignores all those fuzzy quiet bits where it's going down again. So you end up with this weird illusion where you've got this sort of never-ending rising tone. So I'll play it to you again, now you know how it works. So you're hearing it going up, you're hearing it going up, but it's never getting any higher because it's also going down at the same time. We just don't hear that bit. Okay, so that was illusion number 1. Now, recently I read a paper that was talking about a variant on something called the Pinocchio illusion. And this one uses your hand. So what I'd like you all to do is hold your hand up like you're about to give someone a high five. Okay? And then you're going to hold a middle finger and just gently pull it. And keep pulling it, not so hard that it hurts, just nice and gently. Okay, now close your eyes and then listen to this sound again. I can see some of the people on the panel who I can see, I don't think you can at home, but they're starting to giggle. I don't know if can we switch to maybe Helen? Did you feel anything there?
I'm not sure I felt it. It was a funny thing to do.
Okay. Did you feel anything weird going on with your finger? Did anyone else feel anything? No?
Oh, we're rubbish experimenters.
Okay. Well, no, I tried that on I think about 4 or 5 people, and it's been about 50-50 so far. It worked on me. So what the researchers found is that when they asked people to do that and then played them an ascending tone, now they didn't use the shepherd's tone, they used just a standard ascending tone. So I thought maybe I could put them together and see if it made it even better. But they found that people started to feel like their finger was growing, like it was sort of just slightly stretching. And they argued that that's because we associate high pitches, high sounds with high areas of space and low sounds with low areas of space. So when you're holding onto your finger and listening to a sound, you kind of associate that with an upwards feeling. And that gives you this weird sensation that your finger's growing. So I'd love to know if that worked on any of you at home. I say this is everything, when you do things with human beings, sometimes they don't work. Every human being is a little bit different, and we all feel different responses to different kind of illusions. Some will work really well on us, some won't. I have just had a message from Trent saying that it worked for some people in the live chat. So that's really, really good to hear. And I guess that just shows us how different all our brains are, that we all process information a little bit differently. Our experiences throughout our life will have affected how we interpret sounds, how we interpret sensations, and that's why we all feel different things. But I'm glad it worked for some of you.
It's really interesting. I was just thinking as you were talking about all those cartoons, you know, in cartoons things shrink and grow. There's a magic bean or something, and the noise is always going up in pitch, and I'd never thought about that. Yeah. But it's quite nice if you can play that game on yourself as well. So Ginny, you're doing quite a lot of, you've got an online, some online science stuff for people at home at the moment. Just tell me about that.
So I've launched an online science club. So it's a weekly email. So all you need to sign up is an email. And each week we're looking at a different sense. So last week was vision. If you sign up in the next few days, you'll get the vision email pretty much straight away. And then on Tuesday, the next one will go out, which is all about hearing. And then we're going to kind of move through the senses over the next 6 weeks. And each week you get a little video from me with some demos and little illusions like that. And then some try-at-home activities that you can do in your kitchen with kind of materials you might have around the house. And you can also send in questions for me to answer as well. So you can find links to that on my website or my Twitter, or I've been putting it everywhere that I can think of.
I'm sure all of those will be available on the Cosmic Shambles page somewhere for this as well. And actually, it's a great topic to pick, isn't it? Because all of us carry us with us all the time. So it doesn't matter, even if we are at home again, we're still, there's quite a lot to play with there. And I love how a lot of it's counterintuitive as well. We think we're so clever as humans, and actually we're filling in a lot of gaps. Is that fair, Ginny? We're kind of,
and I think we tend to think, or we're taught in school, that we see with our eyes and we hear with our ears, but actually it's our brain that's doing a lot of the processing. The eyes and the ears are the very kind of basic level, and then it's our brain that's actually making sense of all that information, and that's where a lot of the illusions come in. There's a few that work at the level of the sense organs, the eyes or the fingers, but most of it's actually going on in the brain.
Well, we're going to give everyone a chance to try their brain out now with some sensing. We think we're going to feed you sound, but you might be experiencing it in different ways, because we have Jonny Berliner, who is a teacher with a very interesting take on all the teaching he does, very lively when explaining it, and he has a guitar, which is always a good start. So, Jonny, over to you.
Thank you. Thanks, Helen. Hey, everyone. How are you doing? I'm going to sing songs about waves for you. So what is a wave? It's a bit like that. It's not like that at all. A wave is a way of passing energy from one place to another without sending something. So here I've got a slinky. If I wiggle this end of the slinky, the energy, the movement in that slinky goes straight along it, and I didn't have to send anything from one end to the other. The movement rippled through. I'm just going to sing a funk song about that now for you. So here we go. This one's called Up and Down. There's actions. Every time at home I say the word up, I want you to point up. When I say down, I want you to point down. And when I say side to side, see if you can point side to side. Here we go. Move up, move down, then pass the movement around. Move side to side, then spread the movement out wide. Move up, move down, then pass the movement around. Move side to side, then spread the movement out wide. Up and down, side to side. Waves are held, vibrations spread with a seismic sound or light. Up and down, to and fro, transporting energy and information as they go. If you want to send energy without matter being sent to, get a substance vibrating and watch the ripple spread through. Seismic waves go through the earth, sound can ripple through air. Light don't need no medium, and that's why it's everywhere. Move up, move down, then pass the movement around. Side to side, then spread the movement out wide. Vibrations in a transverse wave are perpendicular to the direction that the waves will go. Peaks and troughs occur. Seismic Seismic S waves, water waves, and light are examples, but seismic P and sound waves are longitudinal. They have vibrations parallel to the direction they go. Compressions, rarefactions, form as they shake into and fro. Up and down, side to side. Waves are how vibrations spread with a seismic sound or light. Up and down, to and fro, transferring energy and information as they go. Make the frequency high, make the frequency low. Turn up the amplitude, now take it down low when a wave hits a boundary. What you gonna do with my refract? Get transmitted, yeah, bend and go right through. It might be reflected, bats use echoes to locate. It may be absorbed and then the temperature will escalate. Up and down, side to side. Waves are how vibrations spread with a seismic sound or light. Up and down, to and fro, transferring energy and information as they go. Get down. There we go. That's a song for you. All right, now, I mentioned in there light waves, and they're a particular type of wave that are particularly weird because they don't need any substance to travel through. That's why we can get the light from the sun and it travels through space. But you might think, how does light pass movement? Does it? Well, I've got a thing here called a Crookes radiometer, and when I stick it into the sunlight, here we go, it's in the sunlight now, you can see the little sails start to speed up. So there is nice proof for you that light waves can make things move. Isn't that pretty? There we go. All right, so light waves are a type of a wave called electromagnetic waves, but there's loads of electromagnetic waves. Light is just the one we can see, but it's part of a spectrum. It's like the rainbow goes from red light to violet light, but you can keep going past red all the way through infrared waves, which we feel as heat, to radio waves that we use for communications. And you can go the other way, past violet light, through ultraviolet light, which tans our skin or burns it if we stay in the sun too long, all the way up to X-rays and gamma rays. So here's a song about them. This one does have actions for the chorus. I'll try and do them at the same time as playing guitar, but that doesn't always work. Let's see. If you make charged particles shake, they make waves electromagnetically that will radiate in a transverse way through a vacuum infinitely. There's nothing faster, it's reckoned, going 300 million meters every second, spreading out in every direction. They're all around us continuously. Their wavelengths form a spectrum with a range of frequencies. The waves are all invisible except the visible light we see. Some substances transmit them, others reflect them. If they happen to absorb them, we use that to detect them. Now we know they've a whole collection of uses and properties. Here we go. Radio waves, their frequency's low. Microwaves for my mobile phone. Infrared feels like heat to me. Visible light, that's what I see. Ultraviolet tans my skin. X-rays show me my bones within. Gamma rays may make me scared. Electromagnetic waves are everywhere. Radio waves move electrons in antennae on radios. And you can also use the signals made to send Wi-Fi to and fro. Microwaves beam to satellites, send mobile phone calls day and night, and TV signals, and they're mighty good at heating up your food. Infrared cooks your toast and makes you warm when you stand in the sun. It's in remote controls and police use it in the dark to catch a thief on the run. Invisible light as a laser might read your CDs, art fix your eyes, and fiber optics are carrying light to get broadband down your street. Radio waves, their frequency's low. Microwaves with my mobile phone. Infrared feels like heat to me. Visible light, that's what I see. Ultraviolet tans my skin. X-rays show me my bones within. Gamma rays may make me scared. Electromagnetic waves are everywhere. UVX and gamma rays have such high energy. Living cells exposed too long have unwanted chemistry. They can make cells cancerous or kill them completely. But gamma rays kill cancer too, and sterilize scalpels for surgery. Radio waves, their frequency's low. Microwaves from my mobile phone. Infrared feels like heat to me. Visible light, that's what I see. Ultraviolet tans my skin. X-rays show me my bones within. Gamma rays may make me scared. Electromagnetic waves are everywhere. Electromagnetic waves are everywhere. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jonny. Give me a really round of applause everywhere. I think physics is improved with music. That is clearly true. Now you've got a project called SciTunes, Jonny. Tell us about that.
So SciTunes aims to take school science, all the facts you need to know, and put them in song to make it just a bit more fun to do your revision. And we make music videos as well to go along with them. And you can find you can find us on scitunes.org, or if you want some more activities to do with all of the music videos at home, if you go to my website, johnnyberliner.com, I've set up the SciTunes Home School. So you can download worksheets to help you get the most out of those lyrics, and lots of learning to help with secondary science.
That's great. So you can sing along to your lessons. I like this. I like this idea. Okay, so we're going to move on now. But just before we do, I wanted to mention something which is on the Cosmic Shambles website. And it's one of my favourite things on there. When it first came out, me and my sister sat down every Friday to watch it. And we were adults, and but it's aimed at kids. And it's the Quest for Wonder, because there was Wonder. You'll have to watch the series to find out who Wonder is. But she got lost, and the series is all about how she was found again, and all the science that she learned along the way. It's really funny. I didn't know I could be so entertained by a little blue thing called Wonder. So I highly recommend that. If you'd like to watch the Quest for Wonder, you can go to cosmicshambles.com/Quest for Wonder. But don't go there just yet, because we've got some more stuff here to share with you. And just to prove, we're doing very well for international guests today. We had Ginny in Singapore. Jonny, where are you? Oh,
I'm in London.
Jonny's in London, I'm in London, and now we're going to go as far away as we can go without going into space, which is to New Zealand, where Michelle Dickinson is. So this is late at night for her, so we're very grateful to her for staying up. Michelle, off you go.
Thank you, Helen. Hey, everybody. Kia ora from New Zealand. So I'm an engineer, but also a nanotechnologist, which means I deal with tiny things. You may have heard of some tiny things recently, including something called COVID, which is a virus. Today, we're going to build some superpowers, and we're going to build some super-powered soap. I'm going to explain to you why soap is so important when we're washing our hands right now, especially when we're staying at home. So for this, I'm going to take a jug, empty jug. I'm going to put some hot water in there. So I'm going to put about 200 milliliters of hot water. I'm going to add some gelatin to that, about 2 teaspoons of gelatin. Now, gelatin is not vegetarian, so if you are vegetarian, you should know your alternatives. You can pick up agar or other alternatives in the supermarket. We're going to put that in. We're going to stir it up, and that's going to make a jelly. But this is going to be a very special jelly, because we're now going to add 100 milliliters or 100 grams of soap. So I've got squeezy soap here, but you can also, if you like it to be more solid, you can add bar soap, which you have to grate like a cheese. And so you're going to mix all of those things together to make this beautiful concoction of soapy gelatin mess. Now you're going to take your favorite sticker. I have dinosaur stickers today because they are my favorite, but whatever your favorite superpower wants to be is what you're going to do. I'm going to take some little dinosaur feet. I'm going to take one of these silicone baking cups. This is just a little one. I'm going to put my dinosaur sticker in the base upside down, and then I'm going to pour in my gelatin mix, and we're going to let that sit in the fridge to set. Now it's probably going to take a couple of hours to set. While it's doing that, we're going to talk about why soap is so important. So soap, you're probably like, I see soap every day. It's not that exciting. It's so exciting. Soap is made up of what we call polar molecules. And polar molecules are molecules, when you look at them, that actually have two very different ends. So one end is different to the other. In the case of soap, the two ends either love water or they hate water. So there's one end that is hydrophilic, it means it loves water, and there's one end that's hydrophobic, which means it hates water. And the end that is hydrophobic, while it hates water, it loves fat. And so that's why you wash your dishes with dish soap, because what you're trying to do is find the bit that loves fat, and it actually breaks up the fat and the grease on your plates while it's trying to hide from the water that you're washing with. So now we know that soap is a polar molecule. We need to talk about this thing that's called COVID-19 that you may have heard of once or twice, which is a virus. Now, viruses are basically tiny, weeny little balls. And the way that we can differentiate the virus is by their spikes or their dangly bits. So COVID-19 has a dangly bit that sticks to our lungs, which is why it's a respiratory illness. It causes problems sort of deep in our lungs. Whereas you may have heard of the common cold virus. Now that has a dangly bit that sticks to the cells inside your nose, and that makes you stuffy and have a runny nose. So the symptoms are dependent on where the virus wants to stick in your body, and it wants to stick to your cells because that's how it can basically turn your cells into a photocopier and multiply itself. So our whole goal is for that not to happen. But the great thing about COVID is that it's a very special type of virus in that it's got all of its inside bits, but outside it, it has a fat layer. We call it a fat envelope or a lipid envelope. And this actually is going to be its kryptonite. So remember when we talked about soap being a polar molecule? So I've got a balloon here, and it's got some confetti on the inside. Now imagine this is what our COVID virus looks like. So it's got the virus material on the inside. On the outside, it's surrounded by this fat envelope. So let's think about our superpower of soap. We know that soap is made up of molecules, and the molecules either love water or hate water. So when we wash our hands, and if we have virus on our hands, when we wash them with water and soap, what's going to happen is the soap molecule is going to turn so that the bit that hates the water, the hydrophobic end, is going to try and get away from the water, and it loves fat. So it's going to try and go into the fat layer of the virus. And what happens when it tries to bury itself in? Well, we know what happens. So we're going to bury our way in, and all the virus material explodes everywhere, and the virus is destroyed. That is good. And then you rinse your hands, and all the water goes down the sink with the virus. No more virus on your hands. That's why soap is a superpower, and that's why we're trying to wash our hands with soap every single day. So what about your superpower? So after your gelatin has set in the fridge, give it a couple of hours, you're going to end up with a set jelly-like superpowered soap with your favorite sticker on the inside. This one is unicorns. Let me see, I've got one over here that is a baby dinosaur. And then if you like to make it with grated soap, then they just come out opaque. And this is your little soap cake here. And you can put this in a little box, and you can carry it around with you wherever you're going, if you're going anywhere. And every time you touch it, you can now imagine that you are having your unicorn superpower that is actually going to destroy the COVID virus, your very own special soap. These will keep for a couple of days before they go a little bit crusty, but you can rehydrate them with a bit of water. And that's the power of how soap is our superpower and will help us all fight this terrible virus that we're all trying to get rid of. Helen.
Thank you very much, Michelle. And you've been really busy in New Zealand, haven't you? You're not just doing this kind of thing for the kids. You've been talking about this to all kinds of people.
Yeah, so as a science communicator, I've been trying to communicate this. I've been really lucky. Our Prime Minister here, Jacinda Ardern, has used me as a communicator to do a few things. We ran a press conference just for children to explain stuff to kids about what's going on with the virus. And then we've done some social media with our Prime Minister's science advisor too, Juliet, talking about what the virus is and just trying to explain to the public what's going on. And also in New Zealand, we've set up these 4 stages or 4 alert levels. So what alert level we're at and what that means that we have to do. So it's been pretty busy.
And it's a bit different. You're obviously, the interesting thing about New Zealand is you're an island. You're kind of away from it all a little bit, aren't you? So things are going a little bit. Tell us a little bit about how it's different for you, because you haven't really got the virus yet, have you? And you're hoping not to get it at all.
Yeah, so I think out of all of the sort of Western countries, we locked down the earliest. We have less than 1% transmission of cases, and all of our cases, bar the 1%, have come in from people from overseas, mostly New Zealanders who are coming home when they saw that, Europe and the US was sort of infecting. So as an island, we shut our borders. We're at a level 4. What that means is we can't go outside unless it's essential. None of our shops are open other than a supermarket and a pharmacy. We're not allowed to do any online shopping. Literally everything is shut. All the homeware stores are shut. We just have to stay at home for 4 weeks, which is what we're doing. I am living in my lab. I've decided to make my home my studio so I can keep making content and keep communicating science. And yeah, we're on lockdown. We have had 1 death, sadly, but our transmission rate is very low. And because we locked down so strictly and so early, and we used a lot of evidence-based science from what was happening in Europe, and China to sort of base our government decisions on, we are, touch wood, actually doing incredibly well here.
Great, thank you for sharing that. And I do love the idea of having a children's press conference. I think there should probably be more of them. Okay, so we're going to move on now to Jamie, who has a demonstration with some cola. Tell us about that.
Hey everyone, I'm Jamie and I'm a chemist based up in Glasgow. Welcome to my living room. When I knew I was coming to speak to you today, I thought, well, what is chemistry and what does chemistry mean to me? And for me, chemistry is the science of the senses, because chemists are always looking and writing about how things look, how things maybe feel, or maybe even how they smell. And the ideal place where chemistry and the senses fuse is in your kitchen. So I went into my kitchen, raided around the cupboards to see what I was going to talk to you about today. And I came across a bottle of cola. And as a chemist, this is a fascinating liquid to look at. A lot of you are going to have it in home. Some of you maybe had some today, and a lot of you will have some over the weekend. Before we delve into the chemistry of cola, though, I want to make a rather disgusting cocktail. I'm going to take my cola, and to it, I'm going to add just a little bit of milk. Now, I'm not going to explain why I'm doing this just yet, but I'm going to mix them, I'm going to leave it to the side, and we're going to come back to it at the end of this section to see what has happened. So if we're going to talk about the chemistry of cola, I think we may as well start right at the beginning. And so we need to go back 150 years to America, where we would find this guy here. This is Dr. Pemberton, and he is credited with coming up with Coca-Cola. But it didn't start as Coca-Cola. Dr. Pemberton's great idea was a wine that had cocaine in it. Dr. Pemberton's Coca wine. Now, this is incredibly illegal nowadays, but 150 years ago, this was something quite exciting, taking the drug cocaine and mixing it with the drug alcohol. But just a few years after his idea, he hit some problems because America banned cocaine and they banned alcohol. Dr. Pemberton's Coca wine was dead. And so was his source of income. He needed something new. And what was he going to use? Well, he looked at the ingredients he was currently using. He can't use cocaine, so what is he going to use instead? He looked to the plant that cocaine comes from, and he started flavouring a drink using coca leaves. So these leaves don't have any cocaine in them, but they gave the drink a distinctive flavour. So we have coca leaves. Now, he needed to think about how he was going to replace the alcohol as well, and he tried to find a more acceptable drug. For that, he looked at caffeine. So caffeine is the drug that is in tea and coffee. It helps us to feel a little bit more awake. And that's because caffeine is a little molecule that looks just like a molecule we produce in our body. When you wake up in the morning, your body starts to produce a compound called adenosine, and that increases the longer you're awake. And your body detects these increasing levels, which tells your body, you've been awake for a long time, how about we go to sleep? And it starts to prepare your body for sleep. Caffeine comes in and stops you noticing that your adenosine levels have increased. So you don't realize that you've been awake for a long time and your body doesn't prepare you for sleep. So caffeine gives us a little bit of a kick and makes us feel a little bit more alert. So where's it going to go for his caffeine? Coffee and tea seem to have the market cornered. So he went back to nature again and he started using cola nuts. So what we have is a drink flavoured with coca leaves and powered by the cola nut. I should say that the leading manufacturer of cola deny any association between their name and coca leaves and cola nuts, but that seems a bit of a coincidence, don't you think? There's a problem with this new drink, though, with the coca and the cola. It tastes horrible. Caffeine is a pesticide. Plants produce caffeine so that things don't eat it. And if you had to drink this coca and cola infusion, it would taste really bitter. If you don't like Brussels sprouts, then you would hate the original cola. So what do? If you've got a drink that tastes horrible, well, there's an easy fix. Dr. Pemberton just dumped a whole load of sugar in it. In fact, what he used was a caramel. So he mixed caramel into his mixture, and that gave it a really sweet flavour. So people enjoyed drinking it. It also gave a really distinctive colour because the caramel he was using was orangey brown. And the orangey brown, sweet tasting liquid that we're familiar with was born, Coca-Cola. And all of a sudden, it swept across the world. It was incredibly popular. People loved it. And it became really distinctive. As a chemist, I look at the ingredients of cola and I get curious. And one odd thing I think is if you look at the label, you'll see things like phosphoric acid labelled. But then down at the bottom, you'll see natural flavours. As a chemist, that really annoys me. What's a natural flavour? Why aren't you telling me what's in my drink? For cola and other brands, the natural flavours are the big secret. And nothing is secret from a chemist. What chemists around the world did was they got leading brands of cola and they thought, we are going to work out what your natural ingredients and natural flavours are. Even if you go into a Coca-Cola factory, you won't find the secret written down anywhere. You'll see a great big vat labelled 7X, a mysterious mix of flavours. But chemists were determined to know what that secret mix was. And effectively, they sieve through cola. They take the cola and they separate out every single molecule and work out what it is, where it comes from, and what role it plays. And they found that cola was a lot more complex than they initially expected. When you smell cola, you're actually getting about 60 different compounds in your nose, and it's a huge mix of flavours. Some of those are nice and really familiar to us. So in cola, you'll find things like orange and cinnamon and vanilla. And you can get these oils by just squeezing a plant. If you take an orange, and you take off the peel and you squeeze the peel, you'll get some of that essential oil, limonene, that is used to flavour things like cola. But they found some that were less nice. Chemistry is complex, and if you take small levels of ingredients and you mix them up, it can create something quite beautiful. So you have the cinnamon, you have the orange, but also they found smells associated with stables, of straw, grass, dung, pig, cheesy feet. There's a huge amount of smells inside cola. If you have these at a low level, they actually create a really attractive bouquet. So cola doesn't smell like feet, but actually there are molecules in it that if in high concentrations would smell like feet. Pretty disgusting, but again, knowing the chemistry means you can create something that's actually quite delicious. So let's go back to our mixture now. I said that caramel was added to create the colour of cola. If you look at the ingredients of cola, you'll notice that it doesn't contain caramel anymore. It just contains sugar. So if you have some sugar mixed into your liquids, you end up just with a colourless solution. We're not adding caramel, so cola wouldn't actually naturally be that dark orangey brown colour. So where's the colour coming from? The other ingredient that's in cola, as well as the natural flavors, as well as the caffeine, as well as the flavorings, they also just add some artificial color in. And that's because 150 years ago, cola was dark brown. And so we still expect it to look dark brown now, even though we don't add caramel. So they add some sugar and they add some colouring. And that is where our milk concoction comes back into play. In milk, you have proteins, and proteins are great big molecules and they're all balled up. If you mix them with acid that you find in cola, that protein unravels. Instead of a ball, it becomes lots of little waves, lots of lines. And those lines can sieve through the cola. They will bind to that artificial colour that chemists have put in the drink and remove it. So you can separate the cola drink from the cola colour. If we go back to our bottle, you'll see it started to look kind of different. It looks quite cloudy. And I thought it might be clearer if we left it for a little bit longer. So I've got one that I did last night. Let's have a look at that. This is my cola and milk that I left overnight. It's lost its brown colour, and the brown colour is settled to the bottom, leaving a yellowy but quite clear liquid. The weird bit is, it still smells just like cola. It still tastes just like cola. Because as a chemist, I understand what's in this bottle. And you can't fool a chemist. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Jamie. I have to say, watching you pour the milk into the Coca-Cola, it was clear that was... It felt like such a horrible thing to watch someone doing. And even though I understand the chemistry, I think it's commitment to the cause for you to drink it at the end, because frankly it looked disgusting.
So much of it is just an illusion.
Yeah, thanks. That's going to make everyone feel better for their morning, isn't it? But it's all interesting, isn't it? We're all learning about how we work, and the thing is that allows us to play with it a little bit. Okay, we have reached the end of our allotted time slot. So I've got a couple of things to mention before we go. First of all, we're going to be here every week on Saturday mornings. So there'll be demos and science and stories and all kinds of normal Cosmic Shambles things mixed in together on Saturday mornings for families. So that's the one specific family show we're going to be doing during the week. Don't forget that tip bucket if you're a parent watching this. If you've got a couple of quid to chuck in after any of these shows for the performers and artists who are not getting any work at the moment, please do that. But this is a big weekend for the Cosmic Shambles Stay at Home Festival, because we have it's a proper science weekend. There's all kinds of stuff going on. So tomorrow we have our normal science show. Robin and me are going to be joined by Chris Jackson and Jim Al-Khalili to talk about volcanoes and quantum physics and bubbles and lots of things, and we're taking questions for that. So if you've got any questions about any of those topics, do send them in. At 7 p.m. tomorrow there is going to be a special Cosmic Shambles Stay at Home Festival show all about COVID-19. In general, on these shows we're not talking that much about the virus. We're trying to find joy in the other things in life, but we do recognise that science is important. So Robin Ince will be joined at 7 p.m. tomorrow evening by a panel full of professors of immunology and epidemiology and mathematical modelling and all the things we need to understand how this virus is affecting our society and what might happen in the future. So that is at 7 p.m. tomorrow. This will be available as a recording. So if you've got any friends who you think would watch it, but they missed it this time, they haven't missed out completely. And so the links to this will be available on the Cosmic Shambles website. But for now, from the very first family Stay at Home Festival science show, it's goodbye from all of us. Bye.
Bye.